Hi, I'm Salt.
And I'm Pepper. Coming up this hour,
A data wave at a round table.
someone lands a rocket made of SCADA.
Natasha pelts us with your questions.
That's right, and we'll take a look at your impromptu workstations.
Welcome to the Automation Village. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the May edition of the Automation Village, the most popular live automation show in this part of the Milky Way galaxy.
That's right. I think that's an official stat. We definitely totally didn't just make up.
So, Dave, what's new this week on Mars Rover Watch?
So it's getting busy on Mars. So we've had the Chinese landed their Taiwan 1 rover, I believe it is.
Right. So, I mean, how many, if you had to total up all of these little sweet RV toys that we've been launching at Mars, is there like a half dozen now? Is there a dozen?
I think that we must be right around a half dozen area. So, yeah, traffic's getting a bit busy.
Now, I understand, I just sort of breezed through that article. I understand that the last couple of them all have featured onboard lasers. So hopefully they won't get too close to each other.
Yes, that's a good point, Chris. Yeah. Yeah, so and this Mars rover actually came down slightly differently than the previous ones. They say they all come in kind of a similar fashion where they've been parachuting more recently, but this came down in that slightly more traditional way, where instead of using that sky crane to drop the rover onto the planet, they landed the pad containing the rover, and it's like a platform that folds out, and the rover is then able to sort of drive off of its base station.
Right. And it sounds like this one is designed to work for about 9 months, which is when the warranty wears off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, if history tells us anything, it's that is a gross understatement of how much life they'll get out of this thing. But nonetheless, I think they've got, about 9 months to do that mission.
So we've got some VTScada customers who do automated traffic control systems. I think maybe that's something we might need to implement on Mars once the traffic picks up.
That's true. Yes, I'll keep my ears peeled, and I guess we'll get Natasha to set a flag in her email for when that quote request comes in.
That's right. Oh, now which one of our offices that goes out of, I don't know. All right. So one of the reasons why people tune in is we give away some pretty significant prizes each month, and we're going to talk about that right now.
That's true. Yeah. So this month we'll be giving away 2 $100 gift cards to somebody who has the ability to send an email, and the details of that will be coming up shortly. So,
right. So at some point coming up, and it won't be a surprise, we'll actually shout at the camera, "This is the code phrase." We'll say, "This is the code phrase." We'll flash it up on the screen. You're going to put that in the subject line of an email and send it to natasha.lutz@trihedral.com. So you may as well open up your email client now and type that in, natasha.lutz@trihedral.com. A few rules apply, though.
That's right. Yeah. So the basic rules are, if you work for Trihedral, then you can't enter, or if you're one of our guests today, you can't enter. Basically, if you don't have any direct association with us like that, then you are good to go. So,
yeah, we've got more rules linked down below in the description.
That's right. Yeah.
So next up, we are going to have a regular series that we have on called SCADA Tips and Tricks.
Cool. And for that, we're going to go over to Jenny Bauer, who is a developer with VTScada.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi there, guys. How's it going?
Good. How's work going?
So far, so good. Happy to be on today.
So how does it work in the development office right now? We're treading water for 20 seconds. How does it work these days with you guys all being distributed around North America and the world?
Well, we already had 2 teams, one in Bedford and one in Aberdeen, that were regularly working together. So there's actually been, it's kind of nice to be able to sort of automate everything. Everybody's on the same page now. We're all working from home, and it's actually been great.
That's great. So what are you going to talk about today?
So today I am going to be demonstrating equipment types for everybody.
Excellent.
So in our new with version 12 IO and calculations tag, we have, I'm going to just share my screen if that's okay.
And while you're doing that, I'll just say for those who didn't catch it, we're talking about VTScada software by Trihedral, which is actually the sponsor of this program.
All right, so if you can see my screen, today we're going to be talking about equipment types. So this is a parameter within the new IO and calculations tag, and I'm just going to show off a little bit of how it works. So on my screen here, I've got a paint mixing station. So imagine you're at Home Depot or something along those lines, and you're going up to their paint mixer. And every year they have new paint colors. Sorry, Dave?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I already love this. The paint mixing station is one of my favorite demo apps.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you how this can be really used. The equipment types can be really useful in a situation like this. So I'm going to open up my tag browser and see here, I have an equipment type column, which I can sort by and even filter on up here. But I'm going to open up the style settings tag here and show you where these equipment types, the magic really happens. So here on the equipment tab, see here, I have equipment types here. If I look at my label maker equipment type, you can see that the values all have a corresponding name, color, and whether I want graphics that are associated with that value to flash on the screen. So as you can see, these are pretty basic colors, and we as the paint company, quality paint company, do not want to be putting yellow on our paint colors, because what kind of paint company would we be? So my marketing team has actually sent me this year's paint colors. So I can actually import a CSV file, open it up, and now I have all of these fancy paint colors that my marketing team has come up with. So that's great. And now I'm going to show you my screen. So here, this is connected to a color selector. Right now, there's no values in this. I want the paint values in this tag. So I'm going to open up my properties. My IO and calculations properties, going to go to display. Or sorry, not display, but you can see we are connected to the style settings tag. I can just select the equipment type label maker, click OK, go to my Idea Studio, go to my properties of this, that's not the graphic I wanted, properties of the drop list here. And now I can use my tag equipment labels. My drop list automatically gets populated with those labels. And now I can go and start picking my paints. So I want to mix some lavender. Now you can see that my labels and my colors are now appearing where I want them to on my system. My system isn't mixing, which is an issue, but imagine it did mix. This is not connected to real hardware, so it's just some automated background calculations going on. But as you can see, the graphics still work. We can see that the paint or the tint is purple, this is purple or lavender. We can also see on my HDV down here that the values that we're getting in our grid also match the values that we've put in here. So that's a really useful tool, I think. Now, even if what if we wanted to add more? Are we limited to this number of labels? Absolutely not. We can, of course, load in more. So let's go to the properties of our style settings tag. And we're actually going to put in more paint colors that are, and now this just attaches it right to the existing paint color list. And if I were to have paint colors come in that had the same value, let's say in 2022, this comes along. Oh, I guess my 2022 paint colors are the same as my 2021, so nothing changed. But as you can see, we'll just add on. And now, if I look at my graphics, I've got all sorts of paint colors here that I can now select from, which will get the matching color, get the matching label. And the great part about this too now is I can make more paint stations or paint mixers, and they'll all have this. Oops, sorry, I wanted to paste as a child. They'll all have this equipment type, and they'll all get the same labels, unless I wanted to go into their personal style settings tag and change the labels. Like if in this paint mixer I wanted to add another label, I can do that manually by just one more label. I could say for value 100, I want it to just be plain red. Color, red, and okay, now that's just added to my list. So there we go. We've got so much functionality. We can map any value to any label connected to the IO tag. We can have different style settings tags if you need to. You can have endless equipment types, or nearly endless. I'm sure there is some kind of limit, but if I wanted to add an equipment type, for example, if let's say I could just type in one here, new equipment type. And now that appears there. So you can tell there's a lot of flexibility here. And, you know, you can really specialize it for your system. Imagine if you have like hundreds of pumps, you don't want to have to go into every single pump tag and tell it what its text corresponding is going to be. So this makes it very easy to have different equipment types, different labels, but one style settings tag that ties them all together. So yeah, I think that's really all I have to demonstrate today. Do you have any questions, Dave and Chris?
Well, actually, I think we have a question in the chat right now. Do you want to tap dance live on the air?
Do I want to? I'll go get my tattoos from upstairs.
So we'll bring Natasha on early for questions with Nat then.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jenny. So we did have a question come in on the chat, and it is, what is the limit for values on a piece of equipment?
Do they mean the number of values that can have labels, or the greatest value that the value column could be?
Premier 977, have you heard that? Do you want to go ahead and elaborate on your question, and Jenny can go ahead and answer?
While we're waiting on that, Jenny, I had a quick question. So obviously this has a practical application for paint mixing people. What other kinds of, in what ways would this technology benefit other industries? Well,
as you can imagine, there's almost all industries have their own specialized equipment. So this can be really helpful if you have a multi-state anything. You could say, you know, ship vessels, it's at the dock, it's in transit, it's landing. You could, there's sort of limitless possibilities. Whatever type of equipment you have in your factory or manufacturing station, you can implement this type of label making or label setting
right.
style, I guess.
So just to quickly jump in there, Premier 977 clarified with number of different labels.
Number of different labels. I will look into that and get back to you because I don't know that off the top of my head.
I think safe to say it's a lot.
Yeah, I like at least 250, but I would argue more, probably more.
Cool. Still a lot of
so
labels.
If you want Premier 977, you can just reach out to us with that question and we can get you a specific answer for that.
Oh, thanks, Jenny. We appreciate you coming on today and filling in for Sam Black, who usually joins us, but he's busy off actually implementing SCADA systems. So thanks for your time, Jenny. Great job.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye.
Great. See you, Jenny. All right, so Chris, next up, we're going to go over to the data wave.
Data wave.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Data Wave.
Hey, Pam, glad to have you back.
Oh, it's wonderful to be back. And thanks to Ian, Lee, Peter for covering for me last month. We were out at Ocracoke and joined the water. So thank you guys very much for stepping in. Absolutely. Well, you know, actually, when I was out at Ocracoke, it made me think about what should we, our group, talk about in this session here on the Data Wave. And, you know, we went out to enjoy the water, but there was a front that moved through and the waves were pretty darn chaotic. So not great water sport type area. Then the next day, the front shifted and it became glassy smooth. So going from smooth to chaotic. And I was like, you know what? After this Colonial Pipeline thing, after everything that's going on, this is really the world we work in, whether we're in transportation, electric, you know, water, sewer, whatever we're in. So we started thinking about in our group, why don't we have a session here, a little talk on operational resilience and how do we all communicate with one another and how can we get the information that we need to be able to run our facilities. And in this world that's sometimes chaotic, that's sometimes smooth, how do we set ourselves up to be successful? with that. So for those who are new this week, our panel is Ian Mertzler. He is the president of Dispel. He's from Austin, Texas. Lee Kibler is the water systems engineer in rainy Foley, Alabama at Riviera Utilities, although I think today he doesn't have rain, but it's coming, Lee.
Yes.
Yes, yes, it is. Please send some here to the coast of the Carolinas. Then Pete Diffley, who's the senior manager of the global partnership at VTScada, but he's also the gentleman who produces this automation village. So first I want to start with Ian and get Ian's perspective on last month's, not only just the Colonial Pipeline, but all those other cybersecurity events that occurred. Ian, you had some interesting perspective when we talked the other day.
So the way I describe it, well, first of all, hello everybody, and we did very much enjoy, Pam, watching you on the Pam Cam last.
Yeah, I heard about that Pam Cam.
But
I wish I was that good of a.
The summary about the event that happened at Colonial is this was one of over 40 attacks that have been running the same route by a group called DarkSide, and DarkSide is a ransomware as a service entity. If you wanted to prevent it, it could have been as straightforward as having downloaded a Cyrillic language package onto your computer. So there's props for people who are multilingual. But the more important thing was the way this attack played out with Colonial. There are two interpretations of why Colonial responded the way they did, and the implications for all of those places that weren't reporting, why they perhaps are responding the way they did. With Colonial, you notice that they took their systems offline for only a week for them to purportedly segment their networks so that operational technology could function independent from IT technologies, yet they still paid the ransom. Two things. First of all, if they had just been following the industry standards for cybersecurity, nothing fancy, these two networks would have already been separated. So it's rather regrettable that this even occurred. The second thing that's important is that DarkSide exfiltrates all of the data from a company. So if one's looking at why this particular ransom was paid, it was probably because of fear of that data being published, which is one of the things they threatened, rather than fear of the industrial controls, in fact, being locked down, because they were successful at hiving off these two networks. So the lesson that I've taken from this is there's a broad awareness now that there's a problem out there. There are easy ways to fix the problem. People know how to do them. So the thing that has to happen is people need to do them now.
So really there's practical resources that we all can look at to really move forward. And I think one of y'all the other day made the statement that the answer is not just to turn it off. That's not really the answer, because we, in all forms of utilities, we have a job to do. We have a service to perform. We have to have that data to do our jobs for wastewater, industrial waters, drinking waters, transportation, you name it. We've got to have that data. So we have to find practical ways to get it done. But yes, cybersecurity affects everybody. We certainly know that. So, hey, Lee, from your perspective, what are some ideas you have there? In your experience, well, also at Riviera, what are your ideas to recommend?
We have to look at this both from a systems level and from a local level. And from a local level, what can I do within my organization to improve our security and our resilience? Because we have to look at what can we do. We need to audit often. We need to make sure that we have documentation of our networks, all the IP addresses, all the programs, all the configuration files. And guess where you need to store those? Somewhere other than the network that could be victim to ransomware. So that would be a horrible thing for you to have all these preparations and all these procedures and have them all held captive by a ransom attack. So you need to have a nice SSD hard drive with all these programs and all this stuff ready that you could respond and recover your network if you did get somehow or another somebody came through the corporate network. And there's a million ways somebody can get on our network, which brings to pass, I mean, we all think about this guy sitting in a dark room with a keyboard, but we don't pay a lot of attention to locked doors in our plants where there's a switch sitting there where somebody could just patch in when they come in at night. We don't pay we don't really understand that if we leave all of our ports configured on our switch, that it's just an open invitation for somebody to patch in. So there are things we can do at a local level to add resilience. How many times have you forgotten the password of a web GUI for a, say, a VFD, and oh man, I'll just go on the internet and I'll search for the password, and oh, there's the default password, and I'll just plug it in, and boom, I'm in. Okay, that's an indication of a potential problem. Maybe we should be doing some local password management that would prevent that, and using password managers to document those passwords so that we don't have spreadsheets or text files sitting on our network saying, please take and invade my network. So that's what I would say would be a good thing. How do we continuously improve? We do offline drilling, we do documentation. We verify that software is patched, we verify that firmware is up to date, and we try to prevent open-ended remote connections from vendors. So that's just a few things that I would say would be a place to start.
No, and all those are really, really good. And, to me, and I guess to all of us, one of our biggest risks is people. And our job is to make sure that our people are trained, that they're educated, because that's a huge weakness. It's the human side of it, not necessarily the hardware side to it. Would you agree?
Yes, I would. We as a company use proactively quiz our employees using email phishing attacks, simulated attacks, and it's just a good thing. If you get caught, you have to go through supplemental training, and everybody's like, oh, this is such a drag, but it's so necessary. These phishing attacks are so convincing, and our human nature of, as far as like, have you ever looked at the letter M on your computer, and if you put an R and an N next to one another, it looks like an M? The human mind will connect the two letters, and you will click on a link that could look very just like the link you were intended to. But we do it with I've got really bad English sometimes in my emails, and whenever I proofread it, I just scan right over the flaws. So it's a human thing. Our brain is so powerful that we can make some mistakes that obviously somebody else would catch.
That's true. Here at Hawk and Danaher, our IT people get pretty creative in those phishing, the fakes, and it's a joy out here. We all start, who's going to catch it, who's going to see it. So it makes it more of a game, which is great, but it's a great learning environment for sure.
Absolutely.
But we certainly, I think, and Peter, you're next. I think we talked about, and we don't want the fear of doing anything. We don't want to get stuck in this analysis paralysis. We want to make a plan and move forward. So I'll go to Peter and see what ideas you have.
Yeah, thanks, Pam. So I mean, in light of the fact, call it the network segregation issues and all these kind of things, and we had an early discussion, all of us, where we were kind of talking about the challenges of password management, account management, all of that, and I kind of think that if you're to consider having like an IT person who becomes an OT champion. Think huge thing to have a collaborative sense, because invariably what happens is you've two separate camps, different thinking. You have maybe very stringent on one side, which is like we have to restrict this, but people are used to the fact that you have your own login, and I'm going to say in the water industry and other industries, but definitely the water industry, we see time and time again where there's individual accounts on an ActiveX account managed by IT, and they look after that. And everyone says, that's great. Try that on the OT side, and sometimes people are saying, no, we can't do that. That's a union thing. It's a whatever, right? So all of a sudden, you have a single password, and you have all the default passwords on the VFDs and the PLCs. All these things all remain. So I guess my thoughts are, start thinking more about how who in your IT side of the business would make a good champion to bring into your OT side. Very important and extremely empowering. You'll have a different relationship, and you'll have an understanding where there's give and take. As you said about the analysis paralysis, thing, that you can't have it that you just cut the arm off. You can't just say, okay, well, we'll never, ever, ever, ever have a need to connect remotely or do something or geographically spread our system. So you need to have a game plan, and that game plan really goes back to the collaborative kind of sense. That would be, I suppose, my main thoughts.
No, I think those are great. You could equate that from IT to OT for those here when you have, like, say, a certified operator who moves to maintenance. He or she understands both sides of the barn. Or an operation person who moves to lab in my world, or lab to operations. It really gives you a much broader view of thought and appreciation of the jobs that people have to do and what can be done. So that's a wonderful recommendation, that's for sure.
Thank you.
You know, in this last 2 minutes, how about any closing thoughts from any of the three of you gentlemen?
I have, maybe I'll throw in something. So, so cyber attacks ain't going away anytime soon. Yeah. So I mentioned just before we came on the air that the health sector executive, health services executive in my home country of Ireland, was hit by another ransomware attack, which had the implication that you couldn't make an appointment. So you could be a critical patient, the whole system was shut down. Now, it's not going away soon. So I think, any industries that are lagging when it comes to cybersecurity, you really need to get your act together and talk to people like Ian and Lee and and ourselves as well on the control system side, and start getting your game plan together soon. Don't wait for it to be too late.
Well, there you go. I'll say the Virginia Water Environment Association actually at noon Eastern today is having a discussion of ransomware. So interesting the discussion goes. How about you, Ian? Any last thoughts?
Two, operational resilience exists because you enjoy operational efficiencies from having teams being able to communicate with one another, back channel methods by which you can solve a problem. These systems, part of them necessarily include cybersecurity, but they also include good communication protocols and the like. One other thing I want to say is there's sort of a code of conduct amongst American vendors of cybersecurity products, which is when there's an emergency, you don't charge for it. You charge for stabilizing the system. If you have a problem right now, or you're not certain that your system is working, call the people that you trust the most that supply systems. And what you're looking for is you're not looking for another risk assessment to create a plan. You don't have that time. So what you need to do is you just need to batten down the hatches now. Then you can sort out the system in general.
Okay, Lee?
Yeah, it's like you think of how do you eat an elephant? You start one bite at a time, and you don't start with the tail, hopefully. And also, how do we collaborate? We check our egos at the door, and we all communicate, and we all know that we together are much more intelligent than one person as a focal point of trying to solve a problem.
Good point.
So true. It's not a blame. You're trying to find the solution. That's
correct.
True. And every journey begins with a step. Don't get paralyzed in that quicksand.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you guys very much. Enjoyed this time together. Look forward to next month. And we'll move on to the next section.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks very much, everybody. So,
Great,
Chris,
and,
we're going to jump into Smart Water, all caps, as you will hopefully see it on screen or can see it on screen. I'm not sure
we don't know.
yet.
We have faith.
All caps, Smart Water.
And now take your finger and hit send right now. You only need to do it once. Doing it 5 times won't help. And again, as we said before, if you work for Trihedral, if you appear on this program, or if you're the family of any of those people, then you can't enter. So good luck, everybody. We're giving away 2 of these things.
Cool. So let's jump over to our next presentation. And
that'll be my evil twin Carl, who's going to do an interview with Steve Ostenek and Spencer Tibbs from Neuendorfer Inc. about their precipitator optimization system.
Cool. Enjoy.
Joining us today is Steve Ostenek, the president of Neuendorfer, based out of Willoughby, Ohio, and he's joined by Spencer Tibbs, computer engineer. Welcome to you both.
Hi. Thank you, Chris. Hi.
Steve, can you start off by telling us a bit about Neuendorfer?
Sure. Neuendorfer has been involved with heavy industry, primarily around air pollution control equipment for near 45 years now. We are consultants and engineers who create customized solutions to improve emissions and increase efficiencies in these heavy industrial processes.
Great. So Spencer, can you tell us what is a precipitator optimization system?
Yeah, so the precipitator optimization system takes in controls that are out in the field, wrapper controls, voltage controllers, and kind of monitors and sets programs around performing the best task at hand in terms of collection efficiency and making sure that we're not out of opacity limits and stuff like that. Yeah, so we have our proprietary in-house controls for wrappers and voltage controllers, the MVC4 and the microwrap. We've built our own drivers on VTScada's platform to communicate to those. And we are logging data every 5 seconds and getting an indication every time a wrapper is hit. And then we have other performance optimization things and a bunch of different programs that we can set up around those pieces of equipment. And then from the plant level, we communicate with a DCS system. So we have our own DCS package that we have set up multiple times to put stuff into Pi for the customer so they can have it at the plant level as well.
So when you say when a wrapper is hit, what exactly does that mean?
It's a 20-pound slug. We energize it. It's a magnetic slug and it drops and then picks back up using our wrapper controller. And then we set programming around that of how often it should wrap and its frequency, when it should wrap, when it shouldn't wrap. So we kind of do a lot around our own controls.
So you mentioned VTScada software. Tell us a bit more about how VTScada works in this process.
VTScada is, for us, we built off of our own custom OEM layer.
Mm-hmm.
And we have now supplied numerous applications where we have a custom application for our customer that's built on our OEM layer. VTScada has been great to provide us the tools to build our own thing while still utilizing the stuff that has been provided.
So, Steve, you've been using VTScada for a very long time. How did you come to actually discover this product?
In the late 80s, early 90s, there was a emerging need to interface all these devices that Spencer talked about. On a particular precipitator, there could be hundreds of these devices. And then in a particular facility, there could be multiples of that. As emission standards were getting tougher, our clients were needing to stay on top of this equipment better and get the data and do something with it. And we tried to create applications in DOS. And then Windows kind of came around and Windows afforded us abilities to do things with graphics and that. It just seemed clunky at that time. So I would say mid 90s, late 90s, we were introduced to a guy by the name of Pat Cook. You heard of him, Chris?
I've heard of him.
So, he said there's this wonderful tool out there that could make our lives easier. And we looked at it, and the benefit was in these industrial settings and in these plant kind of integration efforts, you're trying to take this thing that's on an island and integrate it into a plant. We would have to create those means of interfacing with plant DCS systems and such. VTS, everything was just packaged in there. And it just made it easier for us to, if someone wanted us to interface to an Allen Bradley or Modbus or something like that, we didn't have to create it. It was already done. And then the data historian was built in, and that was an advantage. So the tool made our lives a little bit easier, when we're trying to do this integration. And then over those 2 decades or so, we've been able to build on top of this and build more functionality and more troubleshooting tools, more diagnostic tools, and optimization tools into this that helps our customers optimize their equipment.
Thank you. So Spencer, as I understand it, you've created basically a templated version of this application, and you'll be able to then roll out specific applications to individual customers. So can you just tell us a little bit about what each of those applications that you roll out includes?
Like Steve said, we interface with 100 devices. So some of the precips could have as little as 6 voltage controllers to 120, depending on the size. So built in our layer, we were able to just make a tag type that is a voltage controller. And from a scalability standpoint, we can add 100 of them quickly and then we can get those up and running and commissioned very quickly as well. And same with the wrapper controls. We have systems where we only have one wrapper control to 8. We've been able to build custom layer that we can scale, so we're not having to spend time writing this over and over again for all the different devices we've handled.
Spencer, would you mind taking a moment to actually show us an example of one of these applications?
Yeah. Okay, so this is the general POS layout. It's a top-down view of the precipitator. Here are the voltage controls that we have, where if you hover over them, that brings up the control panel that you would actually see out in the field. We can click on this, go to remote view, and you have full access to what's actually out in the control panel. You can change settings, stop the voltage control and start it. These are also our wrapper indications. So if I hover over one, it lets me know that this wrapper is actually hit, and then letting me know the next one is ready to hit. So we can go to our wrapper control, we can do programming, check on the control status of it. There's a lot of things that we can tailor around the precipitator in terms of power off wrapping, specialized wrapping. We also have built an oscilloscope, which I ran one earlier. So it's just like your regular digital oscilloscope. Here's our triggers down here. You can start and stop the scan, and then you can do different waveforms. And this is where it's actually triggered. You can move this around. So it's really nice for diagnosing the actual voltage control in the field, as opposed to bringing a handheld oscilloscope out.
There's a significance of the oscilloscope function, and it's around safety. These controllers run in cabinets and individual cabinets, and inside that cabinet is 480 volts. The traditional method of hooking up an oscilloscope, and an oscilloscope is a very valuable troubleshooting tool, is that you have to open the door to the cabinet. And of course, everything that you want to attach to is in the back of the cabinet. So you have to potentially break the 480 plane. So that oscilloscope function allows us to do things without even having to go to a control room. So what an operator would have to do, or a technician would have to do, is get up, walk out to wherever these are, open a cabinet, potentially get exposed to a dangerous situation. Now you can just sit at a computer and look in oscilloscope trace, and we can remotely look at it as well. So that was a huge tool there, and it's one of those little insignificant things. You go big deal from an electrician standpoint, pretty big deal.
We've incorporated chart effects, and we've made a 3D graph. And so here you can see the lanes and how they're running. You can click on different sections. You can go back historically with data. And so it's just a nice, helpful visualization tool for our consultants and then the customer as well. And then, we mentioned our DCS. We have a DCS table already built out. This one's in Modbus. So it just makes a nice, quick, easy setup for our customers to attach to, using the drivers that have already been established by VTScada. We like to think that our stuff is very plug and play, that we do just the work of getting it laid out and performing this HMI layout, and then we can just kind of turn it over to the customer, and they plug in their DCS communications, and we land the field wiring out to the devices here shown, and it's ready to go.
That's great. Do you use any of the built-in VTScada trend viewer?
Yeah. So if we go here onto our, little pop-up, click trend, and there, we've pulled up that individual voltage control. If the operator starts and stops the TR, it triggers a note into the notebook. So it's very helpful for diagnosing this stuff, especially if we have customers utilizing the security credentials that we've provided, with different operators. The trending is absolutely wonderful, and we live off the trending.
Well, I've been working with Trihedral for about 11 years, and Neuendorfer has been a household name throughout that time. And I've seen many really impressive looking screens. So it was a pleasure speaking to you in person and getting to see that application in motion. This has been Steve Ostanek and Spencer Tibbs from Neuendorfer Inc. Thanks for joining us today, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Joining us now is Shana Rambos, the events director at Swan. Thanks for joining us today, Shana.
Great, thank you. Really great to be here.
Now, many of our viewers, of course, are familiar with Swan, but for everybody else, would you mind just taking a moment and telling us about the work that organization does?
Absolutely. So for those who are unfamiliar, SWAN is the leading global hub for the smart water sector. We bring together leading global water utilities, solution providers, academics, regulators, many other industry experts. And our goal is to accelerate the awareness and adoption of smart, and by smart, we mean data-driven solutions in water and wastewater networks worldwide. So we do this through many outlets. And one of this is SWAN membership, which has so many benefits, including research reports, regional workshops, webinars, free passes to our upcoming conference, as well as global connections and direct sources for certain areas to promote this. So that is us in a nutshell.
Very cool. So tell us a little bit. You guys have your conference coming up. I believe it's the 24th to the 28th. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So this month, coming up just in a few weeks, this will be our 11th annual conference this year, so we're very excited. While it's our 11th year, it's our first time doing a virtual Smart Water Week, including participants from all over the world. And it's going to be fantastic. It is all virtual. We're currently at 500 smart water leaders from around the world who are there attending. This already includes 80 utilities and about, give or take, 40 countries. So truly a global experience, and we're very, very excited about it.
Right, very cool. And you guys, we've seen some of your schedule there, and you've done a really nice job making that schedule available for people in all kinds of different time zones as well.
Yeah, so that was really our main goal. We really, at SWAN, we cater to small, medium sized utilities, organizations, and we really want to empower them with this education and this knowledge when we want them there. So this just allows us to do that in a more direct way. And I will also add, this year we have about 30 hours of content, and content from people around the world. More than 50 utility speakers alone. So it's going to be great, and no one has to be concerned about the different time zones. Everything is recorded and remains on demand.
That's great. And we've been to a number of these virtual events hosted by various organizations, and I have to say your platform is by far the nicest that I've seen so far.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, we've been looking at that, and it looks really, really good. We're looking forward to it.
Also, this year we are very happy to be the engagement sponsor for this event. So we'll be putting on all sorts of different activities, and one of those is going to be the Rocket Lander Challenge. So we thought that it'd be fun to have you to come on and, of course, tell us about SWAN. But now we challenge you to land our rocket. Do you have the right stuff, Shayna?
Oh, we will find out.
Okay, so for everybody watching, I'm going to do a quick demo of kind of how this would look and what this challenge is. And with a little bit of luck, I will be able to land the rocket. We'll see. It's excruciatingly difficult to land this rocket, but we'll give it a go. So this is kind of that old-fashioned SpaceX-style lander where the rocket just goes up, and then the goal is to just bring it down on the adjacent pad. So up.
Nice.
Do this without giving myself a trim. I can feel the heat.
Be nice. I have to top this, so.
All right, nothing to it.
Very nice. Yeah, so the landing gear will come out, and we haven't even got a fuel alarm yet. There's the landing gear.
There it is.
There it is. Nice work. So Shayna, just do that.
Well done, yeah.
So, whenever
Easier
you're
said
ready.
than done. And I'll point out to everyone there's a great prize for this, so I think it's very well deserved. This is not easy, but I will give this a go.
And we're
I'll
off.
try not to hit you.
All right, so it's a great looking start. Lift off. And this is that critical moment, getting this bank right and getting that right amount of horizontal speed so that you're over there before you run out of fuel, but not moving so quickly that you can't scrub that speed. So this is coming in nice. Oh no!
Oh no, I might hit you.
Oh no! Oh.
It is really not as easy as it looks, guys. I just sorry about that. I'm glad you're okay.
Well, that was a good first time. First try. All right, here we go again. By the way, as we're gearing up here, I should point out that actually our own Dave Spencer created this rocket landing simulator out of VTScada software by Trihedral. In case anyone.
Yeah. This is probably the least industrial use the software has ever seen.
I don't know if flying a real rocket is this stressful. It's kind of fun.
Dave.
Sorry. Sorry about that. I think the rocket has now. And
That's
I feel
right.
like
Chris,
with 50 or 60 more, I could get this.
I think you're probably right. And many of the people who've tried this before you did have those 50 or 60 practice attempts. So, Chris, one of the other neat things about this is that Shada's actually running this, and she's connected to a cloud server. So, Keith Donaldson set this up on Azure. So
our mission control is in Aberdeen, Scotland. Oh, here. Oh, looking
that's
good.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
And,
wow. Coming in.
Oh.
I got the landing pad. That's closer.
That was as good as most of the Starship flights.
So then, should we use horseshoe rules and make that a win?
Yeah, I agree. That's a win. There's at least a leaner.
So Shana, just take a second and tell folks if they want to get involved in the conference this year, how do they do that?
Yeah, so it's very simple. We have our SWAN 2021 conference website. You can register directly through there. You can also feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on the SWAN website if you have any questions at all. I do highly recommend going on now, registering. Like I said, there's already over 500 smart water professionals on there, networking, setting up meetings, and talking. And definitely don't miss the interactive roundtables and these amazing contests by VTScada. Definitely give this a try.
Great. Thanks so much. We really appreciate you coming on the show today to talk about SWAN, and that's swan-2021.com, I believe.
Exactly.
We hope to see everybody there. Thanks very much, Shana. Have a great week.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Shana. So, Dave, if someone wants to land this rocket and win big prizes, how do they do that?
Yeah, good question, Chris. So to do that, you can head to forum.theautomationvillage.com, go into the contest section, and look for the part that says Launchpad, which will probably be changed very shortly to Rocket Lander. You can go into that, and all you have to do is post down below that you'd like to participate in the Rocket Challenge, and then we'll pick somebody to try for the next month. And so you could win a $100 gift card if you're able to get that rocket down on the pad.
Awesome. So speaking of $100 gift cards, let's give some more out. So last month's challenge.
Yeah, great idea.
So last month we gave people, we've been doing this for a couple of months now, and it's been very successful. People from home send in their pictures of the kooky improvised workstation that they built out of milk crates and lawn furniture. And this month we have another batch. So Dave, do you want to show us those?
Yeah,
and then we'll
absolutely.
give out a prize.
Sorry, I got excited and I forgot that I needed to change computers here.
How many computers do you have there?
Okay,
boom.
So first one up, we see I really like this umbrella. Yeah. Though the tavern that's missing that, if you reach out to us.
There's probably probably some kind of a reward for that.
I'm sure you returned it.
And I'm sure I like that the umbrella's down low, so you get a nice confined area for concentration.
Yeah, very cool. All right, next up.
Now that bucket is awfully handy. If you just turn it over, it means you can work there for many hours uninterrupted. Also, I like that this one looks like it takes place in the Rebel base on Hoth.
Yeah, this is good. I expect it's not the cheapest desk. That case looks...
Oh, it's true. It's a very nice Pelican case, looks like.
Next up.
Ooh, a blast from the past. I used to have that very monitor on my desk.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know what's older, that monitor or those dials behind it.
Or the disk drive in that laptop.
Yeah. All right.
Very
Next
nice.
up.
Nice to see Jim again, too.
Yes, Jim's been a real good contributor.
So in this one, is the workstation in the back of the car or in that closet?
No, I think the workstation is also holding the door open. So that laptop is providing structural weight.
Yeah.
So next up.
Oh, this is nice. Although you really need to coordinate. If you're working with another person, you have to make sure that you guys are definitely on the same page.
That's right. The driver and the...
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, I did notice. I think this might be a Dodge truck. For anybody who's doing this, you have to check out the new Ford trucks because they've got this whole thing sorted. So you would no longer qualify in a new Ford. It's a perfect work environment back there.
It's a premium workstation.
So nice. Yeah, they've got power and everything.
All right. So now we're back to this one. And so are these the winners?
Hey, God.
All right. So this is the second.
It's going to be one of those days.
So we weren't part of the selection committee. That we farmed that out to a private company called Natasha.
Now the winners are
Natasha Lutz Inc.
Oh, am I no longer sharing to you guys?
Nope. Hopefully you can see our pretty faces.
Hang on. I will get there. It says I am sharing. So, okay. Share screen. Start sharing. That's me.
And the winners are...
Okay, and now the winners are... And now the winners are...
Okay, honorable mention. Nice. There's any number of potential workstations there. Okay, and first runner-up. Boom. In case the winner can't fulfill its duties. Nice. Yes, I concur. Well done.
Cool. So congratulations.
And you just won a $100 gift card. So thanks to all those who entered, including those who entered more than once. We appreciate that. Looking at you, Jim. So feel free to enter again as many times as you want. We'll be running this program again in the future. So come to our, subscribe to our forum and upload your pictures of your improvised workstation. And now we are pretty much out of time. Let's cut right to the end. So I just want to thank everybody. I'm going to thank Pam Moss from Hawk, Lee Kibler from Riviera Controls, Ian Schmertzler from Dispel, Jenny Bauer from VTScada, Shayna Rambose, the events director at Swan, Steve Ostanek and Spencer Tibbs at Tibbets, and Sam Black, who hopefully could join us again next week from EMC. Anybody have anything they want to say, Natasha?
I did want to tell everybody that if you want one of these limited edition, very cool Automation Village bus stickers, head over and post under Meet the Team under my post that you want one, and I'll send it out to you.
Final comments, Pete?
Yeah, just hit subscribe on YouTube, and subscribe within our forum.
Dave Spencer, go.
Cool. So if you'd like to try anything that you saw today, please be sure to check out VTScada Lite. It's free SCADA software for applications up to 50 I/O, and you can get going with that. It has everything you need, the drivers, the development, everything built right into it. So
great.
Check it out.
Thanks so much for all the chatter in the live stream, and thanks to Natasha for monitoring all of that. If you liked this show and you know somebody who likes this kind of show, please tell them about our kind of show. And on that note, I'll say thanks everybody for your time, and we will see you next month.
Cool. Like and subscribe. See everybody.
Bye.
Bye.